Hello, friends and fellow seekers. Welcome back to the Law of One Spiritual Advice podcast. My name is Elle. Today, we're going to be talking about the imposter syndrome and, am I worth it? Am I worthy? Am I making this all up? Am I a fraud? And self-worth and how those two things sort of go together. So let us first start with an imposter syndrome definition in case you've never heard of it. So imposter syndrome is a psychological occurrence in which people doubt their skills, talents, or accomplishments and have a persistent internalized fear of being exposed as frauds. It is also called perceived fraudulence. And number two, they say people suffering from imposter syndrome may be at increased risk of anxiety. And isn't that true? So the idea here is, yes, you may feel like a fake or a fraud as you attempt to be a creature of love, or at least I myself sometimes feel this way. And, it could be possibly because I am a man that, men are supposed to suck it up and be strong and all this stuff. But in my real true opinion, the manliest of men are also vulnerable enough to express their love and their sort of feminine aspects of their self. And then, these are just overgeneralizations. And then, women also will deal with this in another way too. And I'm not to say that men and women are so completely different, but women do tend to be more agreeable, in which case means that they're very concerned with what other people are thinking about them. And so, right, there's a lot of cultural gaslighting out there about us all being fakes and, everyone's just making it up with their social media personalities. And who are you on the surface versus who are you when you dive deep down? Are those two the same things? Are you able to express yourself authentically, or are you always sort of wearing a mask and pretending to be this or that? And so I think it is a very common thing that we all deal with this as a sort of self-anxious feeling about, not being a perfect being and not being like a perfect example of what the ideas and morals that we claim to live by. So don't worry. I believe that this is a human thing and that there is nobody who is perfectly perfect. My understanding is that we are all imperfectly perfect and that all paths lead to the one. However, we can make mistakes and that's okay, because as we make mistakes, we learn and then we can move forward and be more consistent with who we sort of claim to be and things like that. So particularly to me, I'm just going to share a bit about myself because often in the inarticulate expressions of self come resonance with certain line of seeking and a certain path that you may also resonate with. And so sort of that's the idea of this podcast. And that's the idea of this topic as well, is just about sort of speaking your truth, being authentic, and not worrying so much about other people and how they may judge your perfection or imperfection. Because I think a true, honest seeker knows that they have a shadow side to themselves, and they know that they are of sort of infinite worth as well. But, you have to balance those two things where I was saying to somebody yesterday that, it's easier to love other people and to love other people's shadows and to not be offended by other people's projecting onto you, the more that you can come to love and forgive yourself. It's like if you can find a true love and forgiveness for the mistakes and the inconsistencies and the sort of inauthenticity of ourself in the way that we act, the more that we can be kind to ourselves in that department, the more that when you see it in other people, when they project onto you that, you're a certain way and this way or that way, it honestly doesn't mean a whole lot because you sort of already perceive your own failures and you accept them as part of yourself and know that, you hopefully could be doing better, but that the path is long and perfection isn't necessarily something that we are capable of being. It's just truly that you're a perfectly imperfect being, and that we are always a work in progress, and yet in the sense of metaphysical oneness, we are all perfect as is, and from the higher self's perspective, all life scenarios have sort of been concluded, and you already are an awakened perfect being in the future, let's say, but we're sort of stuck in the present / past in the way of time works, and that we are just trying to learn the lessons of love here, and so we falter and stumble, and that as well, as long as we persist in seeking the truth, and honestly that is a massive thing, is persistence and consistency. We will fall, fall, we will trip, we will stumble. Everybody does it. Everyone is, imperfectly imperfect. But as you persist and be consistent in your attempts to know the self and to forgive the self and to seek knowledge and to seek understanding and to seek service of others and love and things of this manner, then you are doing well. That is my opinion. It is not necessarily the perfection in which you operate in a consistent manner as much as it is the attempts to continue on and to continue, the path that you feel is correct. So let us go into some law of one quotes here, because a lot of this, seeing yourself as fraudulent and things like this, at least in my perspective, it has to do with my worth. It has to do with, do I really feel myself as a worthy individual? Do I feel worthy enough to share my opinions? Or do I have a very low level of self-perception of my self-worth and think like, who am I to say this? Who am I to do that? Bringing it back to sort of me being a man, right? You're supposed to suck it up and be a man and blah, 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 blah. But I think that it is in knowing my infinite worth and in knowing that I am perfectly imperfect and all of those types of things, that it allows me to open myself and to express myself in a more authentic way, and not so much worrying about the feedback of other selves, as I am constantly looking for feedback and giving it to myself and trying to make myself a better person. And so, if other people are going to be pointing fingers at me, of course I will try to see their perception as worthy and see if it fits into my catalyst and my seeking and how I may better myself. But sometimes people truly do just project onto you and you may sort of be able to tell the difference between somebody who's giving you honest feedback about yourself in love and trying to help you versus somebody who is just trying to bring you down and say, how dare you be like this, and you're trying to be a good person, it's not even worth it, it's better just be nihilistic and give up, and the world sucks and blah 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 blah. Okay, so in session 32.14, Ra mentions in the Law of One material, the indigo ray is opened only through considerable discipline and practice, largely having to do with acceptance of self, not only as the polarized and balanced self, but as the creator, as an entity of infinite worth. This will begin to activate the indigo ray. End of quote. And so what is the indigo ray? Well, that is the third eye chakra, and we can go into all the chakras and how the energy moves from the bottom and goes up. And I would also state that the second chakra, your sort of personal chakra, is somewhat connected to the indigo ray more intimately than some of the other ones. And that's because the personal chakra is how you see yourself in the world and how you operate in the world. The second chakra, that's the personal one, that's how you operate in the world and see yourself. But it's fed, in my opinion, by the indigo ray as well, which sort of strengthens it and sees, if you can see yourself as an infinite portion of the one infinite creator and can see everyone else as a portion of the one infinite creator, then, we are all of infinite worth, and you can sort of operate in this density, in my opinion, more correctly, in that you are not belittling other people and putting them down as to, sort of their path and their expression of their authenticity of their being. You see the perfect imperfections in yourself, and, you accept those and work with them, and it allows you to better then work and accept the self-worth or the seeming non-self-worth of other selves, or at least to help bring it out of them, right? Maybe even that could be a part of it, is that you're able to reflect to them that, hey, it's okay that you're not perfect. It's okay that you are seeking and failing. You are a being of infinite worth. You matter. You matter. Everything about you matters. This whole universe is a universe of oneness, that is correct, but it has been seemingly split into a million billion different separations, and without you, my friend, we are not one, right? We need you. We need your worth. We need your being. We need your assistance. So we need your contribution to this world, because without you, we are not one. And so every single thing about you matters, and every single thing that you do matters. And so whether people notice it or not, I do believe that if you're able to see yourself as a being of infinite worth, you can better operate in this density, and you can be happier, and you can bring out that infinite worth in other people and lift them up, because so much of this also is about, you could say say all the words you can to somebody, but often they'll feel it from your being. Like when you really believe in yourself and you believe in other people, they feel that. They can feel like, huh, how come I can't do that? Well, my friend, it's because I see myself as infinitely worthy, and I hope that you can see yourself as infinitely worthy as well. But there are a lot of people who are stuck in the sort of small version of themselves. You know, they're stuck in the lower second chakra without the infinite worth of the indigo chakra feeding it, and they may feel self-conscious and anxious about themselves. And you know what those types of people tend to do, right? Misery loves company. They tend to want to bring you down to their level with them, and that, hey, you know, how dare you think of yourself as an infinite being of infinite worth? Like, I'm just a stupid human, and like this, you know, this whole universe, this creation, it's just like made up for nothing. It's just all suffering, and you know, how dare you, God, put me in this situation so that I may suffer, and you know, I'm nihilistic and I'm gonna take up arms against God, blah 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 blah, stuff of that nature, right?
It seems like there's something about the way they view the world where they want to get back at people that have literally done them no wrong.
It's resentment for the burden of being. It's deeper. It's deeper. I mean, human existence is characterized by a fair bit of suffering. You know, we're limited creatures and life is very hard. Everyone dies. Everyone you love is going to die. Most of the things you do, all of the things you do will eventually fail. You know, suffering is a certainty, and it's very easy for people to become resentful about being, about existence. You know, these kids who shoot high schools and these masters, they're the perfect examples of people who run on nothing but resentment. They're out to kill the innocent because that's the best marker of that's the best way of showing just how much contempt they have for existence itself. Why punish the guilty? They deserve to be punished. It's a lot more malevolent and vengeful to punish the innocent. It's like people are motivated to a great degree by resentment of being. And a huge chunk of that is manifested in, that's the dark side of ideological possession. So I get to decide who my enemies are, and then I get to go after them, and I can go after them for every single thing that's ever been done to me that isn't good. And well, a lot of that's just built into the structure of existence.
Well, those are the types of people that I would suggest you maybe try to stay away from. But generally speaking, only if you're not capable of sort of handling their BS. But I've definitely had to lovingly separate myself from people who want to sort of bring me down to their level and, you know, explain to me that, you know, that I should just be as lame and hating myself as much as they do. I don't think that is the way. I think the way is to demonstrate your worth of yourself, and you know, try to maybe communicate with those people and get them to love themselves, if to what degree they're open to listening to you. But if they just persist in seeking to bring you down to a level that is just to belittle you and just to, you know, bring you down to their level of misery, so that they can feel better about them, about their failures and themselves, you know, I would suggest you do your best to lovingly, you know, make some boundaries from those types of people, because they are toxic, my friends, and they're very good at trying to gaslight you and make you feel that, you know, this is all just for nothing and you're just wasting your time trying to be a creature of love. And I would state that you are not. You are doing probably the most important work that there is in this life. And you know, don't get me wrong, like I am actually quite a rational minded person, which is what I think is why I've found this law of one material, because my rational mind does seek a sort of proof, or at least it seeks like just more like, I want to understand this and make sense. I don't want to just believe it totally. Like, I want to know why the law of one explains what it does, and that's what it did, is that as my rational mind wanted some sort of seemingly proof, you know, the law of one came to me, and I was able to sort of make sense of these things and then better embrace my intuition and the, you know, all the sort of metaphysical things about yourself. Intuition sort of comes along with that, you know, whole loving aspect of the infinite worth of the whole creation, etc., etc. So basically what I'm saying is is that I am prone to be one of these people who is in the rational mind, and so I know what it's like to have all of those doubts about this whole spiritual seeking, and, am I just wasting my time? Because the earth out here is very much trying to get you to only use your rational mind, in my opinion, right? It's sort of like, well, what do you do for your work? Like, when people meet you the first time, what do they often ask you? What do you do? What do you work, right? So is this all rational mind stuff? Wouldn't they like to say better, like, what is your heart's desires? What is your, what is your service? Things of that nature would be more of like, from people who are trying to lift you up into a balanced, intuitional, rational mind versus, somebody who's just wanting you to seek with the rational mind. But Earth and the people of it and the culture are very much, overweighted on the rational mind side, and they tend to lack this intuition, love-based side of things, because they try to tell you that all that is just silly. Well, I'm here to tell you that the whole reason for this earth and this third density is to learn the lessons of love. So in fact, anytime that somebody says to the contrary, I would state that that person is unbalanced and sort of sitting in the rational mind instead of being in a balanced intuitional rational mind. So I'm going to read you this quote from session 49.4 from the Law of One, and this is about the intuition and the rational mind being balanced. So they state, the function of intuition is to inform intelligence. In your illusion, the unbridled predominance of intuition will tend to keep an entity from the greater polarizations due to the vagaries of intuitive perception. As you may see, these two types of brain structures need to be balanced in order that the net sum of experiential catalyst will be polarization and illumination, for without the acceptance by the rational mind of the worth of the intuitive faculty, the creative aspects which aid in illumination will be stifled. End of quote. So there's a lot going on in that quote, but mainly is that very last sentence here, is that without the acceptance by the rational mind of the worth of the intuitive faculties for creative aspects which aid in illumination will be stifled. So, they're stating here the two different ways, actually, is that first, they're trying to go about if you're somebody who has too much of a balance of intuition, often what they may do is they get lost in the ethers, as I call it. It's sort of like, you have to think of this as chakras too, okay? So the rational mind is sort of the bottom three chakras, the chores of life, the daily living, the eating, the interacting, the going to work, etc., etc. The intuition is more of the higher chakras, the more feminine aspects of self. Going back, the bottom three chakras are more sort of masculine energies, whereas the sort of top chakras are more of the intuitive, metaphysical, non-seen sort of feminine energies. And maybe you're starting to put these things two together, how the world and the earth is very much wanting you to focus on the bottom three chakras, which is not incorrect. You do need to absolutely be balanced and working on those things. However, a healthy mind, as I may state, comes with that balance of the intuition. And so the intuition, though, is very like all over the place, right? It's sort of like you can pull from infinity a bunch of different sort of dreams and ideas, but as they state here, due to vagaries of intuitive perception. In other words, it's sort of like the intuitive deliverings of the universe are sort of vague, and they're not like, they don't really tell you exactly what to do. They sort of lead you in an area. They sort of intuitively lead you to somewhere, right? Like that it means like you don't fully know why, but you have like a feeling as to what this is, right? So when you're just going off based on just feelings, you can get lost in the ethers, right? It's like basically being an unrooted tree and you grow a bunch of leaves and the wind blows you away. Whereas you would like to be rooted in this density, in this perception. So what would be the healthy is to have then the rational mind rooted in this density and knowing that just basically using both of them. It's using your rational mind in balance with the intuition. So it's not to say one of these is better than the other. It's to say that your rational mind is very much usually, generally speaking, for most people, the one that's sort of in control, but it needs to it needs to know that the intuitive mind has worth to it, that it, the feelings and the things that sort of come to you intuitively, those matter, and they will lead you in the right directions, but you'll sometimes need the rational mind to sort of make sense of things. You have to sort of break it down and think, what did I do that made this happen, and why did this happen, and oh, oh, when I followed my intuition on this time, it sort of led to this, in which case led me to this answer. And oh, there we go. Actually, there's something to this intuition. So there you go. There's sort of what I'm trying to state here, I guess, if I should have maybe said at the beginning, is that the earth and our culture are very much wanting you to sink into your rational mind, and the rational mind is very much the one that tries to state that the metaphysical things of life are unimportant and stupid, and you're just wasting your time trying to be a creature of love. You should just be working on getting a job and a house and building things, and building things in this density. That's what their density is about, right? Well, it is about that. Yes, I'm not trying to say that it's not, but you do need this sort of intuitive, metaphysical portion of life to create balance in you. And you do that by holding both perceptions as worthy, both the rational mind and the intuitive mind. And so great. So you've come to a place in yourself where you are able to sort of have that balanced rational mind with the balanced intuitive mind. And you're starting to feel in the flow, and and you're rooted, and you're making sense of life, and at the same time you're sort of following your intuition in the places that it guides you to lessons of love in various ways, and forgiving yourself and forgiving others and all that wonderful stuff. So then what is the best way to operate in this density? Should we be expressing ourselves? Should we be keeping everything to ourselves? Should we just be learning, solitarily and having that be the example? Well, they do state that basically, like I was stating before, we need you, right? You are part of this equation of oneness. And so your very being is what is of worth. We like to gaslight ourselves and have that imposter syndrome that says, like, I'm just like everybody else. Like, who am I to try to teach others and inspire them, right? Like, is that not just my ego wanting to be noticed and to be special? And, it probably is partially true. Yes, you do have to deal with some of these ego distortions. However, in the material, they do state that, your very being is what is of maximum worth. Like, it's not that you're necessarily what you it's not necessarily what you say and teach to people is really what matters, as much as just the essence of your being, the expression of yourself, the way you do things, not necessarily what you do. So to teach and learn, or to teach-learn, as they state, is to learn, teach, because, the good teacher also learns from the student, and a good learner also teaches the teacher. And so, it goes both ways, whatever. But anyways, the point is that although this is a seemingly hopeless activity to teach and to learn, it is the only activity worth doing. To assist in service to others by sharing the essence of your being honestly and even sometimes inarticulately, this is the way. The love of your being should usually outshine the clumsy words that we sometimes choose to use. I reflect on this a lot, right? Because I'm doing this podcast, and so I often am sort of hard on myself that some days I'm able to really articulate the things that I want to say in a great way, and other times I come in with a wonderful idea of all these things that I'd like to say, and I go to express them, and they don't really come out the way that I want them to, and then, engage imposter syndrome. How dare I? I'm fake. Oh, I suck at communicating. Like, why am I even doing this? Like, do people even care? Does it even matter? Et cetera, et cetera. And, I persist and seek on, and I have my times where I'm having trouble, and some of you send me lovely messages. I think the guy named Charles over the last 24 hours has been commenting on a bunch of my YouTube videos and lifting me up and telling me how, hey, although you may feel that your inarticulate expressions of yourself aren't maybe hitting the target all the time, he's like, I just want you to know that this is amazing to me, just to hear somebody speak in this way and to reflect in this way, and it helps me reflect on my life, and he is very infinitely grateful, it sounds. And so thank you, my friend, and thank you to others who express those things to me. As I am human, I do need to sometimes hear those things, but the inarticulate expressions of your being are a wonderful thing to express. They don't have to be perfect. You just have to try, right? It's the intention of what you do and how you do it, not necessarily what you do and what you say. So in session 1.10, right from the very beginning of the material, they state, the few whom you will illuminate by sharing your light are far more than enough reason for the greatest possible effort. To serve one is to serve all. Therefore, we offer the question back to you to state that indeed it is the only activity worth doing, to learn teach or to teach learn. There is nothing else which is of aid in demonstrating the original thought except your very being, and the distortions that come from the unexplained, inarticulate, or mystery-clad being are many. Thus, to attempt to discern and weave your way through as many group mind-body-spirit distortions as possible among your peoples in the course of your teaching is a very good effort to make. We can speak no more valiantly of your desire to serve. End of quote. So you may see here in this quote how they state that, the inarticulate expressions of yourself are many. However, like the distortions are many. However, there is nothing else which is of aid in the demonstrating of the original thought except your very being, right? So I think that is what I constantly try to remind myself, is that I'm not here to be Mr. Aaron Abke on YouTube Law of One, who seems to have started a Law of One channel before me and seems to be going viral and making everybody very happy and being, this person who is a spiritual guru. And then you have me over here who sort of has a little bit of imposter syndrome and is even scared to just share videos of myself. But it's not all like just imposter syndrome that I do that. There's actually some ego protection that I like to put into place there, in that I am human and my ego is tricky and strong, as mostly ours are. So sometimes what I've sort of decided a long time ago is to try to make this, my teachings, etc., about the material and less about me, because so many people, want to go in and sort of hijack certain materials to make things about themselves. It's sort of just to pump themselves up and their egos up, and is their intention is pure to serve? I don't know. I can't really say. I am not them, right? But my thoughts is that I like to sort of guard in those areas and just make it about the material, so that I don't have those sort of temptations to make this completely about me. But then that is somewhat of a failure in my opinion too, because I know that if I'm able to share myself and you guys could see who I am in my daily life, maybe you also wouldn't have so much imposter syndrome for yourself, right? Like I know sometimes people listen to me and maybe they make some assumptions about me, about my life, and maybe I'm like a perfect spiritual being who is only just doing wonderful things and serving to nth degree, and I'm so awesome, right? But no, I have my problems and my mistakes and my issues too. I deal with issues of anger and sort of like, I've been trying to quit smoking that stuff that starts with the W, and I have, but right, like I sometimes would always tell myself that, hey, is it really just like me when I'm smoking this stuff and these things that are sort of putting me into this loving area, and is it truly an essence of my being that even when I'm completely sober that I want to love in the same ways? And yeah, these are all wonderful questions to ask yourself, which is why I recently had quit smoking, and I'm able to still be, I suppose, the person that I was before, and know that, no, it truly is a portion of me who wants to love and to share love and to serve it and to be part of this service to others, that I can hopefully roll back some of these ideas of my, feeling like a fraud, etc., etc. And then there's also that thing where people will tell you, though, when you reflect honestly and vulnerably and authentically to other people, sometimes that is also what helps them to reflect authentically and vulnerably back to you, right? Like sometimes with some of my fellow friends, right? Especially the male friends, we have the sort of tendency to keep things on the surface and not dive too deep into the whole love categories and things of that nature. But I tell you what, my friends, when I feel vulnerable enough to jump into those areas and talk about, the ways of love, and things that aren't just on the surface, you would be surprised how many people are often pondering these things, and they're just sort of scared to bring them up to you. They're scared to talk about it because because they feel like, oh, that's sort of like lame and flighty and love, and it's something I can't see. But it is important. It is important. This whole love thing is important. If you don't have love for yourself, you don't have love for other selves, you will suffer. You will suffer, and you will continue suffering until you see the infinite worth of yourself and other people. And it's better to learn it, in my opinion, voluntarily than to sort of have the, as Ross states in other places, to have the sort of metaphorical board come and hit you in the forehead to get you to wake up to these things. So, my friends, I love you, and I think you're doing well, and you should try your best to humbly love and accept all of your mistakes and all of the issues and all of the doubts about your self-worth, and are you worthy of being a spiritual being and loving other people and sharing love and light and inspiration with other people? You are fine. You're doing well. You're not going to resonate with everyone, but I promise you the few that you do resonate, as they mention in those quotes, are going to be more than enough for you to feel that what you're doing is right. I can have all of my sort of friends and family members not fully be resonant with a lot of this stuff that I like to talk about, and it sometimes brings me, a little bit down, thinking like, oh man, like this, am I not serving good enough? Am I not making enough sense to have these people sort of resonate and understand? But then, there are other folks like you out there who are diligently listening and seeking and trying to be a good force of light out there. And my sort of simple inarticulate expressions of my life seem to be helpful for you. And so, reflect on that. You have the same ability to do this to other people. It doesn't have to be in the form of a podcast. It can just be in the form of a conversation with another other self, another person who is in your life who you would like to demonstrate the essence of your being, and just to show them the intention that you have, good loving intentions in communicating with them, and trying to assist and be an inspiration of light and love for other selves, because as they state, right, to teach is to learn, and to learn is to teach, and there's really nothing else worth doing, even though it may seem hopeless, and it is. It's also paradoxically the only thing we can do. And so, be you, right? Seek the truth, know thyself, forgive the self, forgive other selves, become the creator. This is the nature of the law of one. This is what we are here to do, and I wish you all the success in becoming yourself and knowing yourself, and you shall not be like me, you shall only be like you. So who are you, my friend? What are you about? What do you love? What do you seek? What do you desire? How shall you serve? And so, my friends, I think that is good for today. I'm trying to record this podcast during my work. Oopsie. Because I'm a day behind. And so, if you appreciate my service and what I do, you could maybe help me one day quit my work by joining my Patreon at theoneinfinitecreator.com. You can scroll down to the support section. You can also send me a one-time PayPal love there. And yeah, if you could maybe give us a like, leave me a comment here and there. I do like to read those, and make sure you subscribe to the podcast if you want to hear more of my inarticulate expressions in the future. And other than that, I wish you a wonderful week, and I hope you take care, and I am there with you in spirit. So take care. Love you. Bye.